Hello and welcome to episode number 11 of No Whining. We're coming at you today with a couple wines I'm really excited to dig into. But before we do that, I want to say a couple things about temperature real quick, because the temperature that you serve your wines at is going to have a huge impact on the experience that you have with the wine and if it's able to express itself in the way that it was meant to be experienced. Now, in a best case scenario, you have a temperature and a humidity controlled multiple zone, like wine fridge or wine cellar. That's best case scenario. But just a real quick rule of thumb for simplicity's sake, because I'm a real big fan of simplicity, put your white wines in the fridge and leave them there overnight. If you're gonna have a white wine tomorrow, put it in the fridge, just leave it in there. And about 20 minutes before you wanna drink it, go ahead and pull it out of the fridge. That's gonna help it be round about the right temperature for drinking whites, most whites anyhow. For your reds, when you're pulling the white out of the fridge, that 20 minutes before you want to drink it, you want to put your red in the fridge because it needs to be in there for about 20 minutes to get it chilled to the right temperature for a red. Okay, let's get into things. This is a 2020. This is a Turniger Riesling Spätlese. This is about a $40 bottle of wine. This is coming from producer Weingut Hermann. Doing my best on the pronunciation there. I would love to make my German teacher proud from high school. I have a sneaking suspicion that that's going to be impossible because I was a terrible student. I did pretty good in school, but I was absolutely horrific at German. I took 3 years of it, and at the end of it all, there was 0% chance that I could form a coherent sentence, if that gives you any kind of idea. Anyway, let's carry on. We are once again in Germany, the land of Riesling. It's a grape that's native to Germany, and it will always be known as the land of Riesling. However, there's other grapes and wines made there, of course. Another notable grape in Germany is Pinot Noir, where it is called Spätburgunder. So the best examples of that are coming out of the tiny region of Ahr. Now, I'm assuming that it's not actually pronounced that way, but it helps me remember it. So that's what we're going to go with on the pronunciation. The specific area in Germany this is coming out of Mosel, which is where the most famous Rieslings in the world come from. And it would be too cold to make great wine here were it not for the Mosel River heating the surrounding terrain and prolonging the growing season. That's what makes it all come together. These grapes were picked from steep south-facing slopes and weathered gray slate soils. This, again, is going to be an off-dry wine. Like in our last episode, that was the first one. We didn't have a dry wine. It was off-dry. This particular wine has about 33 grams of residual sugar left over. Again, this is a Spätlese versus a Cabernet. Remember last time we talked about that, so we're going to go back and review, because a Cabernet, that is early picked grapes. Now, this is a Spätlese, meaning it is late harvest. Again, like we talked about last time, grapes that are harvested early tend to display certain characteristics. Fresh citrus fruits, higher acidity, lower alcohol, with a lighter body. Again, versus grapes that are late harvest, which are likely to show riper, sometimes tropical fruits, lower acidity, a much fuller body, and higher alcohol. Now, this is because the grapes ripened more than its early harvest counterparts, which means more sugar is present for fermentation, which is going to result in higher levels of alcohol. They also have more color, again, because the grapes are riper. Plus, remember this from last one, Riesling is one of the very few white wines where the juice is left in contact with the skins for a short time in order to enhance aroma and flavor. So let's get into wine number one. I'm very excited to experience this with you. Now, I'm going to call this a pale gold color. It's interesting. I saw this in the last wine as well, in the last episode, and I mentioned this. It's got just a little bit of pétillance, which is that slight effervescence. It's from leftover CO2, just trace amounts from the fermentation process, nothing like what you would get in a sparkling wine, but it's something to note when you're looking at your wine before you smell it, and then obviously before you taste it. So let's try this on the nose and see what we find. I'm getting grapefruit and yellow apple and pineapple fruit flavors on the nose, which is very, very different than the Cabernet that we tried last week. So that's really interesting. Let's see what else is in here. I'm getting some nutmeg, a little bit of almond, some beeswax even. Interesting stuff. This has quite a bit of complexity to it because I feel like there's more in here. So let's go back again. I'm getting some slight petrol here, which is very characteristic of Riesling, particularly when it's been aged for 10 years or more. You expect those aromas to be coming through. Some people can't stand it. Some people love it. They call them petrol heads. So I'll let you make up your mind for yourself, but that's very, very interesting. And also there's some slate notes coming through, which makes perfect sense based on this being grown, these grapes, in that gray slate soil. So let's try this on the jaws and see how it does. I can definitely taste the sweetness here. It's not incredibly sweet, but it's actually really refreshing and really nice alongside the acidity. That's very well balanced because this is like a medium-bodied wine. The alcohol content has got to be pretty low on this. I'm not getting a lot of that out of... Yeah, I think it looks like about 9% alcohol, thereabouts. So not very high on the alcohol side. I'm having those apple flavors coming through. There's a nuttiness to it. The slate and the mineral is definitely there. I would say this is amazing. This is a pretty amazing wine. There's great complexity here. It's wonderfully balanced. You've got the sweetness, the acid, like I mentioned, and you've got this like delightful fruit that's coming through. What else? It's those mineral flavors are just really, really nice. And then it's kind of ending on this slate, this mineral finish. That is just crisp and balanced and tight. It's nice and smooth. It's got the perfect amount of sweetness to it with the right acid. If you can't tell, I'm enjoying the heck out of this wine. I'm going to have another sip if you don't mind. That is awesome. That is awesome. Okay, that's a high bar that this set. Let's get into wine number 2. This is a 2021 Waterbrook Reserve Merlot, and this is, the producer of course is Waterbrook, the grape variety. Spoiler alert, it is a Merlot. Okay, this is coming from Walla Walla, Washington, and this is in the Columbia Valley AVA, which is, it's home to like 99% of Washington State's total vineyard area. So very, very significant. Obviously, this area is not at all like the West Side and soggy Seattle and all that, because the Cascade Mountains in Washington basically block that cold, wet influence from the Pacific, and it creates what's called a rain shadow, making for a very dry, hot climate, which, again, a lot of people, that's not what they think of when they think of Washington, but that's exactly what we're dealing with here. Now, what this means is we'd expect much riper black fruit versus a Merlot from a cooler climate, like the right bank in Bordeaux. There we would expect to find more ripe red fruit. Now, these particular grapes were grown in silt loam soils. The producer, for the record, did not provide especially helpful or comprehensive information on the winemaking process. So the best I can tell, this was aged for around 11 months in oak, with 20% of that being in new American and or French oak. Let's give this a try. All right, look at that. We've got, I would say, a deep ruby color. It's got a little bit of a garnet meniscus or rim around it. Looks like it has a fair amount of alcohol, quite a bit of viscosity. I'm gonna guess like, gosh, probably close to 15%, 14.5, 15%. Let's consult the bottle. Where'd they put this? In tiny print, of course. 14.4% is what the verdict is. Let's try it on the nose and see what we think. Lots of black fruit, black cherry, blackberry. This has got bilberry in there, black plum. So really quite pronounced on the fruit front, like bold aromatics, which I really, really like. I like that get after it kind of a feel with a wine. So let's see what else might be in here. Here we go. Got some rosemary notes in there, a little bit of lavender even, and some yogurt as well. Let's see what it actually tastes like. Lots of black fruit, for sure. Also, black tobacco. Some leather is starting to come through. There's good complexity here. I really like that. This is a very full-bodied wine. Again, like we said before, definitely medium plus. I like even on the high side on the alcohol front. Medium in acidity. It's dry, but it's got this wonderful, luscious nose on it and this really just velvety mouthfeel and tannins. It's so nice on the jaws. I'm really enjoying this. It's got an awesome mid-palate, right? Really, really good on that front. And nice length to it. Not tremendous length, but it's finishing out with leather. And I'm just loving the lusciousness and the richness. It's got great fruit in there. It's got the floral notes. It has the earthiness to it. Some of those oak pieces coming through in the flavoring and the aromatics. So I am enjoying the crud out of this. And to be honest with you, as we look at both these wines and compare them, this is very, very, very difficult for me. I loved both these wines. I didn't make this easy on myself to pick a winner. I think that I'm going to go with the Riesling just because of the fact that I really haven't tasted anything quite like this before. A very unique experience, delicious, that tiny bit of effervescence with just like the balance of the body and the alcohol and the acid and the sweetness in there. This was super, super lovely. The Merlot, though, is absolutely awesome. Did not make this an easy pick at all. So I would highly recommend either one of these. I'm recommending them both to myself because I'm going to finish the crap out of these as soon as this episode is done. Thanks for being with me. We'll see you in the next one.